السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. All praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most gracious, the most merciful, praise Him, seek His help and forgiveness, peace and blessing of His para messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open our hearts and open doors for us, inshallah. Tonight, inshallah, continue our journey with the hadith of qulub, hadith of tazkiyah, the hadith concerning the heart. And inshallah, tonight we have a break with this beautiful hadith. This hadith, Imam al-Nawawi said it's one of 4 hadith that the whole Sharia based on. In the first lesson, if you remember, when we talk about the hadith of qulub, we mentioned the hadith al-halal bayn wal-haram bayn. So that the first one. This hadith also one of those hadith that the whole Sharia is based on. Narrated by al-Mu'mineen Abdullah Aisha radiyallahu anha قالت قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من أحدث في أمرنا هذا ما ليس منه فهو رد. رواه البخاري ومسلم وفي رواية لمسلم من عمل عملا ليس عليه أمرنا فهو رد. It is narrated on the authority of the mother of the believer, Aisha radiyallahu anha, Abdullah, that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, whoever introduces into this affair of ours, meaning into Islam, something that does not belong to it, it is to be rejected. Al-Bukhari and Muslim. I will recite it again. Whoever introduces into this affair, meaning Islam, whoever introduces anything to Islam that something does not belong to it, it is to be rejected. Al-Bukhari and Muslim. According to the version of Muslim, it reads, whoever works a work which has for it no command of ours, meaning the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is to be rejected. So this hadith is used as a criterion for judging external actions or performance of ibadah. If an action is not done in accordance with the Sharia or the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, it won't be accepted. Imam Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah, he said, 2 conditions for any good deed to be accepted. Al-ikhlas wal-ittiba'. Ay amal or ay good deed to be accepted from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had to follow 2 conditions. First one, ikhlas, has to be purely and sincerely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because when we spoke about afat al-qulub, the diseases of the heart, we spoke about riya and how riya can ruin any good deed. You know, no matter how big is the good deed, how great is the good deed, but with the riya in your heart, which is showing off intention in your heart, that can ruin this good deed. So there is no ikhlas there. So if the condition of ikhlas is missing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not accept. Huwa rad, won't be accepted. These are the very important conditions. First one, ikhlas, meaning purely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So sincerity has to come first. And there's a beautiful hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, narrated by Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. We all know this hadith. وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى. Deeds are nothing but intentions. So this is what the Prophet ﷺ summarized. Our good deeds are nothing but intentions. So if a good deed has bad intention, it won't be accepted. Okay, so that's clarified the condition of ikhlas, sincerity. The second condition, anyone remember? So we have ikhlas, has to be sincere for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, purely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second condition? Ittiba'. Correct. Ikhlas and ittiba'. Ittiba', following the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this hadith proves it. If someone brought something that not from the Quran, not from the Sunnah, and he thinks this is, Deen, this is religion, and believes in it, no matter how it's going to look good, it won't be accepted. That's alright.
What's the definition of ittiba'?
Ittiba' means following the Quran and the Sunnah.
Oh, okay.
Alright? Following the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I will recite the 2 conditions again. So this hadith is used as a criterion for judging external actions or performance of ibadah. If an action is not done in accordance with the Sharia or the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, it will be rejected and not accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on text of this hadith. We're talking about those who came late, Assalamu alaikum. Those hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam عن أم المؤمنين عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من أحدث في أمرنا هذا ما ليس منه فهو رد. Whoever invented in our matter, referring to Islam, the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever invented or introduced into this affair, referring to Islam, something that does not belong to it, it is to be rejected. And Muslim, Imam Muslim has another narration, similar meaning. Whoever works a work which has for it no command of ours is to be rejected. Meaning that if the Prophet ﷺ didn't say this, or didn't approve this, or the Quran didn't come to approve this, then it's to be rejected. So this is hadith, as Imam al-Nawawi mentioned, that one of the 4 or 5 hadith that the whole Sharia, whole religion based upon. And last time we spoke about hadith al-halal bayin wal-haram bayin. This hadith also one of the major hadith that Sharia based upon. And we talked about that any good deed, any external action won't be accepted unless there's 2 conditions has to be met. First condition, ikhlas, intention, yes. Good intention, ikhlas, purely for the sake of Allah. So anything has been done according to riyah or showing off will not be accepted. Anything has been done with a bad intention, regardless of the greatness of the deed, will not be accepted. So that's the very first condition. The second one, ittiba', which is following the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if someone came today and says, we pray a 6th prayer. For example, after Isha, we pray that every single day, or every single night. So he prays 6 prayers a day instead of 5. And he thinks this is, extra prayer, means good. But this one will not be accepted because he invented something is not part of the deen. And I'm going to speak in details about this, inshallah. So intention, good intention, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sincerity comes first. And it also should be done according to the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Kahf mentioned about the acceptance of actions. When he says, whoever looks forward to meeting his sustainer on the Day of Judgment, let him do righteous deed, and let him not ascribe unto anyone or anything a share in the worship due to his sustainer. Beautiful ayah in Surah Al-Kahf. إن كان يرجو لقاء ربه فليعمل عملا صالحا ولا يشرك بعبادة ربه أحدا. Shirk here referred to not just associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in worship, but it also can refer to partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you do any good deeds. So when you do good deeds to show off in front of your friends, so people can say you're generous, so people can say this, you can say that about you, then this is part of shirk, shirk al-asghar. You're associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Emulating the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam or following the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, it is a must. It is a commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, verily, in the apostle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have the best example to emulate for everyone who looks forward with hope to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the last day, and remembers Allah unceasingly. لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة من كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر. So if you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and believe in the day of judgment or the last day, you have to follow the commandment of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in another surah, say, O Muhammad, if you love Allah, follow me, and Allah will love you and forgive your sins. قُلْ أَنْ كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ in Surah Al-Imran, فَاتَّبِعُونِي يَحْبِبُكُمُ اللَّهُ وَيَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ ذُنُوبَكُمْ وَاللَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. So lessons to be extracted from this hadith. This hadith is related to a very important concept, which is following the sunnah and avoiding. This concept will lead to What happens if we don't follow the sunnah? What will lead us to?
Straight.
Which means, what's against sunnah? What is the opposite of sunnah? What's the
Bid'ah.
antinomies of sunnah? Bid'ah.
Middle.
Right? So if you don't follow the sunnah, you probably follow the bid'ah. Okay? I will explain inshallah more. So scholars classify actions of the Prophet ﷺ into actions done for the purpose of ibadah, worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and actions which are not done for the purpose, meaning customs, actions done haphazardly. There are clear indicators for actions done for the purpose of ibadah, such as commands to do or not to do something, warning for not to do anything. Muslims are only obliged to follow the first kind of sunnah. So when it comes to act of ibadah, act of worship, this is the part that we have to follow. So when the Prophet ﷺ done part of worship, this is the obligation part. That he does it on time, does it regularly. Like for example, 5 daily prayers, fasting Ramadan, going for Hajj and Umrah, right? So these the things have been done by the Prophet ﷺ on certain time and regularly, okay, as a kind of worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, kind of ibadah. So it has to be done. It's an obligation to us. Sometimes the other action of ibadah that the Prophet ﷺ done it haphazardly. And sometimes he does it and sometimes he doesn't do it. So those we'll get back to those ones inshallah. So looking at it in a positive way, the actions, meaning forms of ibadah, that we do should be should be done in accordance with the Sharia or the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and to ensure that there is a criterion consisting of 5 aspects that will keep our actions in check. Meaning, those 5 actions you have to make sure that when it comes to ibadah, you have to fulfill those 5 actions. First one is time. So any ibadah that we do has to be done in its designated time. For example, there's a specific time for Fajr prayer, specific time for Dhuhr prayer, specific time for Duha prayer, okay? Specific time for fasting, specific time for Hajj. You know, we can go for Hajj anytime. Can we go Hajj now? There's a certain time of the year we go for Hajj. There's a certain time of the year we fast Ramadan, right? So time, that's a great element in this. Place, you know, the Sharia has specified that certain ibadah has to be performed in certain place. For example, Hajj and Umrah. Where we do them? In certain place, in Mecca. Right? Can we do Umrah in Medina? Can we do Hajj in Medina? Can we do Hajj in Adelaide? We can. So this has to be put in consideration. Time and place. So the places for performing the Hajj, the i'tikaf has to be done in the masjid, not outside the masjid. Ihram, there's the checkpoints of Ihram, al-Mawaqit, Miqat al-Zamani, which we talked about time, and Miqat al-Makani as well. Places where you cannot cross those checkpoints before you have the Ihram and your intention for Umrah or Hajj. Okay? So these are fixed by Sharia. This is fixed by the Prophet ﷺ. And anyone who does not follow that means he is not following the Quran and the Sunnah. Okay? So that means the ibadah will not be accepted. The third condition, or third element, is quantity. So most of ibadah, there's measurements and quantity. Everything is specified. For example, Fajr prayer is 2 rak'at. Can we pray 4? You know, even if you're praying more, that sounds good, you know. You pray more rak'at, you know, it's good. But you can't do that because you're inventing something that the Prophet ﷺ never done. Alright? So this hadith proves that this action has to be avoided. You know, when you add things that does not belong to the Deen. So quantity is an important element. For most of the ibadah, the Sharia has specified a certain number of times that the ibadah or their components need to be performed. For example, for prayer, there are specified numbers of rak'at and sujood, and for tawaf, for example, there is a fixed number of tawaf, circulation of the Kaaba, 7 times, etc. So we should not violate these rules intentionally. To violate intentionally, may make the ibadah subject to be rejected. So if you do that intentionally, that means your ibadah will not be accepted. But what happens if you done it accidentally?
It's okay.
It's okay, because Allah, the Prophet says in the hadith, beautiful hadith, إن الله تجاوز عن أمتي الخطأ والنسيان وما استكره عليه. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pardon and forgive my ummah for three things. Khata, when they do things by mistake. Nisyan, when they do things by being forgetfulness. وما استكره عليه, things that been pushed or forced to do. Okay? So these three things have been forgiven. Alright, but the first one, if you want to speak more about it, there's things that you can have khata about it. You know, it's ma'loom min ad-din. Becomes, you know, obvious part of the deen. You know, you can't make mistake about it. Like, for example, 5 daily prayers, you cannot make khata about it. You can't make mistakes about it. You cannot just say, unless you're just a new Muslim and you're learning about Islam. Right? Alright? So, there's certain things that we have to pay attention to. So that's quantity. Number 4 is way. The way the Prophet ﷺ performed ibadah. We have to follow the same example like the Prophet ﷺ. For example, salah again. What the Prophet ﷺ advises when it comes to salah? Exactly. صَلُّوا كَمَا رَأَيْتُمُونِي أُصَلِّي. Pray the same way, the same manner that you saw me pray. فَمَا أَدْرَكْتُمْ فَصَلُّوا وَمَا فَاتَكُمْ فَأَتِمُّوا. أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم. Whatever you come on time with me to join me in Jama'ah, then follow. And whatever you missed, complete it after. Or make up for it after. So we don't do things out of our own ways. Period. Alright? When it comes to ibadah, we have to try our best to educate ourselves about the correct and authentic way of the Prophet ﷺ. This is our duty now. You know, we learn this condition, but we have to research more. You know, when it comes to ibadah, we don't do things because we think it's good. You know, because we think it's, you know, we should do that every single day, because that will turn this ibadah into bid'ah, and when it's turned into bid'ah, will never be accepted. And subhanallah, you see that a lot with some people. I want to mention names, but we all know who are they. You know, they just have things that's not part of the deen. You know, recently I've seen a video, some people just watching or coming to see part of the hair of the Prophet ﷺ. Some people kissing it, some people, you know, these, you know, we're not required to do that. We're not sure if even if it's the hair of the Prophet ﷺ. We're not sure of the authenticity of this hair. You know, the Sahaba didn't do that. Why would we do it? Right? So this becomes a bid'ah. You know, people get together and just to do dhikr, you know, in a manner or in a way that's not acceptable. Like, you know, can mix up with the music, sometimes with dancing. So it becomes to a different level. You know, they're saying this is, you know, bring us closer to God. You know what the kuffar used to say about the idol worshipping? Same thing, subhanallah. We only worship them because they bring us closer to Allah. This is the only way, or the only intention to worship idols, because we believe that they bring us closer to Allah. Okay? So way is very important. Following the way of the Prophet, the footstep of the Prophet.
What about business whereby they incorporate like songs with worshipping Allah? Is that a creation? Is that a bid'ah or?
In which way? Songs?
Some songs, you know, they incorporate like mentioning Allah's name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the lyrics, the wording.
Yeah.
Is it acceptable? Is that good wording? Sometimes you could have shirky wording. You know, you could have things that refer to, like, for example, they make a plea with the name of the Prophet. بجاه النبي بحق النبي. All of this is haram because it become, you know, associating partner with Allah. You only ask Allah and seek help from Allah, not the Prophet. We do love the Prophet and respect him, but we cannot ask
from
the Prophet like that some people do. You know, they go even to Medina, to his mosque sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they start, you know, praying to him, you know, touching the window and rubbing around their body, you You know, things like this, you know, subhanAllah, it's just unacceptable. So it depends on the lyric. You have to look into many elements. I can't make this judgment, but if you have to look into
And if
the wording, and if there's background music or not. So this is different issue.
if this music is
There's a different issue.
cut,
No, according to, you know, I follow the strict madhab, which music is haram for me. Any type of music, even if it's nasheed. With music, I don't listen to it. But there's some, I have to be honest, there is some other opinions, and I respect that a lot. But, wallahu a'lam, yani after what I read and studied, that all type of music is haram, regardless. You know, if it's motivating a heart to, you know, to remember Allah or not. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger directed us to the right ways to remember Allah. You know, there's certain dua the Prophet ﷺ taught us, you know, and the reward for them, they are huge. Like the hadith of Rasulullah, كلمتان خفيفتان على اللسان حبيبتان للرحمن ثقيلتان في الميزان سبحان الله وبحمده سبحان الله العظيم. The Prophet ﷺ said there's two words that they are more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than any other words. They are heavy in the scale on the Day of Judgment, and they are light for the tongue to pronounce. They are subhanallah wa bihamdihi subhanallah. So what we need to listen to music or songs that praises Allah. You know, we have the Quran. ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب. We mentioned that before. And the remembrance of Allah comes from reading the Quran, His word. Why would we go to somewhere else?
singing.
Exactly. You know, but I'm not saying, you know, there's some nasheed, you know, you need to sa'a wa sa'a, you know, you need to have some time, you know, like while we're driving, for example, when you long trip, you could listen to the Quran, but sometimes you would listen to something else because you want to focus on the Quran, you don't want to focus on the Quran. You want to show respect to the Quran, so you don't want to listen to it while you're driving, for example, or while you're having a family gathering, you know, in days like this, in the backyard, and having a barbecue and getting family, which is a good thing, alhamdulillah, we should do that all the time. But you don't want to have the Quran in the background and no one listening to it, so you replace it with nasheed. There's nothing wrong with that. But you have to choose correctly. You have to choose which nasheed is it, and what words is it in it, and does it have a background music or not. You know, a cappella is fine. You know, when you have a cappella people voice background, that's fine. Allah a'lam. But I'm not making my own fatwa judgment. This is up to you. You can go research it. But I'm just telling you what I study. I believe music is haram. Listen to. You know, there's a lot of research and a lot of scholars, Shawkani, Ibn Hazm al-Zahiri, there's so many things. But when Abdullah ibn Mas'ud was asked about a verse from the Quran in Surah Luqman, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَشْتَرِي لَهُ الْحَدِيثِ لِيُضِلَّ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. This ayah in particular was revealed in the first stages of da'wah, Rasulullah, when he was in Mecca. It's a Mecca surah. And we all know the Mecca surahs, you know, they came to with a short message to regards to the aqidah, to strengthen the believers' iman, and to mention the story of the people of the past, to bring glad tidings and patience to the Prophet ﷺ and the believers. There's so major themes and characteristics for the verses of, or the revelation of Mecca. This particular ayah was revealed in about someone of Quraysh. I think his name was, I can't remember his name on the top of my head. Anyway, he was one of the leaders of Quraysh. He had a task because they saw the people reading the Quran, listening to the Quran of the Prophet ﷺ, and they start liking it. So he had a task. He said, I will travel to Syria, to Byzantine, and listen to the stories there, and come back and have these gatherings where in music will be introduced, singers, female singers will be coming, so to attract attention. And subhanAllah, look at these days and what's happening in Saudi. I don't want to talk politics, but what's happening now in Saudi, subhanAllah, the land of Haramain, the land of Mecca and Medina, subhanAllah, and see what's happening, and they're trying to change, making these musical festivals and bringing those singers and actors. You know, subhanAllah, wallah, it's very sad. Anyway, this person, he went and learned those stories and came back to recite it to people in an attempt to distract them from listening to the Quran. You know, there was a Quran, which is it was a miracle of the Prophet ﷺ, to challenge all those who mastered the Arabic language. You remember at that time, they used to have markets where they sell Arabic literature. It was very valued, the Arabic literature. They respect it and value it. So when they listen to the Quran, this is something different. Even it's in their own language, but no one can produce a verse, as Allah challenged them. Allah challenged them literally in the Quran to produce a verse like this, or a surah like this. They couldn't. Because it's a miraculous word of Allah. No one can produce anything like the Quran. That's number one. So they couldn't produce something like the Quran, so they tried another ways to distract people from listening to the Quran. So they, brought this person and listened to the stories and just, with the music and recite like a rubaba and then from us, Some people, Abu Zayd al-Hilali, things like this. So he came with these stories and told, brought people into gathering. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this ayah to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. الناس من يشتري الله الحديث يضل عن سبيل الله بغير علم. Some people, they brought the false talk to distract people from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when Abdullah ibn Mas'ud was asked about the meaning of this ayah, and even though he knows when it was revealed and why, he knows the revelation, he said, by Allah, 3 times, by Allah, it is ghina, it is music. That's what he said, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. It is music. And also Abdullah ibn Abbas have the same opinion in regards to this. That is, it is music and it's ghina. And the Prophet ﷺ, this hadith of the Prophet ﷺ about music, al-ma'azif, al-hirr wal-harir wal-ma'azif, that the Prophet ﷺ forbid musical instruments. So it's clear. The evidence from the Quran and Sunnah are clear and authentic. I don't know, people argue this and they're saying they have their own opinions, which I do respect. But for Allah alam, you can't even listen to a nasheed with the music in it. That's my final words in regards to this, inshallah. So yeah. And by the way, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he was one of the most knowledgeable Sahaba of Quran. He said, by Allah, not even a verse from the Quran was revealed except I know when, where, and why it was revealed. Every single verse of the Quran. Right? He was one of the people that people learned the Quran from them. He memorized the Quran of by heart and recited it. The way the Prophet ﷺ recited it. And the Prophet ﷺ said to the Sahaba back then, whoever want to listen to the Quran the way it was revealed, غض طري, listen to it from Abdullah, referring to Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. So he was very knowledgeable of the Quran. When he say this is the meaning of this ayah, we have to listen, we have to follow it. So back to our conditions again. So we said time, ibadah has to be performed on certain time like the Prophet ﷺ did. Place, certain places for certain ibadahs. Quantity, many of the numbers or the quantity of the numbers of the ibadah, of the prayers, or how many rak'ahs, or how many tawaf circles, and things like that. How many days we fast in Ramadan, except for the last day we always fight each other for that day, every year, which is a challenge. SubhanAllah, may Allah guide us all and open doors for us. It's challenging, but this is different topic. We respect both opinions. I'm not against anyone, but I respect, to be honest, I respect both opinions. I just lean towards, uniting the ummah, because it's important now, that we all fast one day and break up fasting one day. And we have a mufti to follow, so if he did a mistake, it's up to him. It's not our fault. We don't have to repeat the day. Alright? So quantity and ways, the way the Prophet ﷺ performed it. Like for example, how he pray, how he offer the prayer, how he offer Salat al-Janazah. So, this is prayer and this is prayer. But subhanAllah, this is different. Salat al-Istisqa, Salat al-Eidain. Different prayers, right? Can we go and invent our own prayer and say this is Salah for this particular event? Can we? Like my son graduating, I'll make Salah for him. This is every time any of my children graduate or get married, I will just make this special prayer. I will add like 3 ruku' and 3 sujood and become like every time. So subhanAllah, this is how. So before we perform any ibadah, we should know and learn the way of the Prophet ﷺ. As I said before, it's an obligation on us, to be honest, wallahi. Every Muslim should study and learn about the Deen. Because the Prophet ﷺ commanded us this. He said, طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم ومسلمة. And he meant specify not just the male Muslim, also female Muslim, to learn about the Deen. Right? Learn about the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You don't have to have extensive knowledge about your Deen. If you can, if you have time for it, that would be great. But we're not required all of us to be scholars of Deen. We're not required all of us to be hafiz and scholars of Deen. Everyone is, if you have knowledge in other things that benefit the ummah, benefit the community, benefit your country, this is also very important. You know, we're not required to have everyone is, you know, otherwise we're all going to be alim and we're going to be fighting towards each other. This is my fatwa and this is your fatwa, you know, it's going to be difficult. But we are required to have at least the basic knowledge about our deen, how to make wudu according to the sunnah, how to pray according to the sunnah. Just the basics, you know. And if we know someone who is not, you know, or is still new to Islam, this is our duty, you know. We see a lot of people, wallahi, alhamdulillah, a lot of people accept Islam. A lot of Muslims in Australia accept Islam, young people. But where are they? Where are they? Are we contacting them and teaching them about our deen? This is our duty. This is our duty to keep in touch with our brothers and sisters who recently accepted this beautiful deen, become one of us, one of our beautiful ummah. We can bring them, and I know Ixa here, alhamdulillah, they do lots of work like that with new Muslims. They have courses for them, which is beautiful, alhamdulillah. But we need to expand this. We need to, you know, using our networking and reach to a lot more of people. Yeah. And this especially at the time, you know, when we have Eid, when we have Ramadan and Eid al-Adha, Eid al-Fitr, we tend to be close to our own families, our own friends, circle of friends. And have we ever thought about inviting, you know, a new Muslim to this gathering? You know, someone you just met the other day, but you know, he's accepted Islam, or she accepted Islam. Things like this we need to be, you know, a lot aware, because this is a difficult time for them as well. When we have, you know, Eid, we have celebration like this, they tend to be alone at this time, very critical time. You know, you could see people come and leave the religion, subhanAllah, because of the treatment of the Muslims. You know, some people accepted Islam, they want to learn more, but they haven't received any support. Well, I'm not having a go at anyone. I mean, this is for me first before anyone. And we're all, may Allah help us all. So before we perform our ibadah, we should know and learn the way of the Prophet ﷺ. Perform it, and we should do it the right way he did it. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Pray as you see me praying." Many Muslims today violate the way of ibadah performed by the Prophet ﷺ because of ignorance or because they don't bother to learn, and they end up doing the ibadah in the wrong way. Right? Like, you know, the examples are a lot. You know, some people, or so ignorance is a big element in this. You know, following the sunnah. If you're not aware of the sunnah, then how can you follow something that you're not aware of? So you need to educate yourself about it. And we see a lot of people, subhanAllah, they're ignorant. They do things that not according to the sunnah. And they think this is something good. They do.
Yeah, they use logic to work on religion.
Logic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
To analyze things.
To analyze things, yeah.
Well, logic, we're meant to use our brains all the time. You know, but when it comes to ibadah, worship, there is no logic. This is the way we follow.
Logic based on knowledge.
Huh?
Logic would be based on knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking about wisdom behind the ibadah, it's a different issue. But when someone, like for example, I was talking to someone the other day and it says, the Prophet ﷺ prohibited us, there's a hadith, authentic hadith of the Prophet ﷺ prohibited us to wear red color clothes, a garment, from head to toe. We can't do that. Islamically not right. The Prophet ﷺ forbid it. Okay? So came to me and asked me why. I said, when there is a text, there is no why. If the Prophet ﷺ said that, this is based in our Sharia. لا اجتهاد مع نص. If you have an authentic text from the Quran and Sunnah saying this, you should do this, you should do that, then you don't have to ask why. It's clear. Then you can go and ask you can search about the wisdom, but don't ask why. You can search about the wisdom. I'm not saying we don't use our brain. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us brains to think and use and utilize all the time. And He taught us things, and He kept things away from us. He told us to do things and kept explain why is it for away from us, for a wisdom, for a reason. In the Quran, al-huruf al-muqatta'at, alif lam mim, what it means. Does it have any meaning? Now we have to explain and we'll say alif lam mim, this is mean that and mean this. We're not required to research about this. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept it away from us, then it's for a reason, and we accept that. Because He's our creator, and our role is to submit to the creator. End of story. Right? But there is also wisdom behind any type of ibadah. Always there is wisdom. Divine wisdom behind any type of ibadah. Okay? But sometimes we learn it in the Quran and the Hadith, and sometimes no one told us about it. You can use your logic and try to research about it, but it doesn't mean that you need to stop doing this ibadah until you find the reason behind it. Sorry?
I agree. Doing the ibadah is you have to do it anyway.
You have to
but
do it.
You can search for the wisdom in parallel, but you have to do it anyway.
Yeah, you can search.
It's not like after I get convinced, then I'll do it. It doesn't make sense.
Exactly. If you have doubts, and this is how it started, Shaitan bring doubts in your heart, and you're saying, "Oh, what are you doing this for?" No. What is the benefit behind it? This is how Shaitan works. But if your intention is you want to find out why we're doing it, or your intention to find out the wisdom behind it, it's totally different. If you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
If you want to find out why we're doing it, because if you find out that it does not match your mentality or your logic, then you're going to stop. Are you going to stop? Are you going to find out if it does not match you, or match your lifestyle, for example? Are you going to stop? I don't know how to explain it more, but you can search about the wisdom. Duha prayer, for example, in the morning. There's many the hadith about it, praying about duha. There's a hadith of the Prophet explained. It's like giving a charity on every joint in your body. Beautiful hadith. The Prophet used to do it. Salat al-Awwabi. Used to do it on a regular basis. Right? You can do research about performing duha prayer and why at this specific time of the day, why it's 20 minutes or 15 minutes after sunrise, why it's not straight away when the sun is rising. Yeah, there's other things that can explain more. It's up to you. But there's things that if you have knowledge of it, this is not the knowledge I was asking you to research and learn. I was more to learn about the way rather than the why. The way rather than the why, if that makes sense. The way the Prophet ﷺ did it, we have to follow it. So we need to learn. We need to read more about his biography. We need to read more about his sayings, a hadith, memorize a lot of them, if we can. Okay? Because not just the Quran, the Sunnah also came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. The saying of the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, authentic saying of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but said on the lips of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said it on the lips of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay? Number 5 is type. Type, if the Sharia has specified type of ibadah, then we should stick to that type. For example, sacrifice, الأضحية, the type of the animal. It's being explained in the books of fiqh. What type of animal should you sacrifice? Can you sacrifice chicken? A rabbit? They're all halal to eat. Right? Rabbit halal?
Yes.
Of course halal, we love rabbit. And do you guys eat rabbit? No? You haven't tried rabbit before? In Egypt we eat one.
You left rabbit?
Yeah, with mulukhiyah. Has to be with mulukhiyah. It's like
Better chicken.
you can't eat it without mulukhiyah. I'm hungry. I haven't had dinner yet. So yeah, some people actually in the past they made in some countries long time ago they made I think one of the so-called sheikh he made a fatwa for the poor people that they cannot sacrifice a cow or camel or sheep. Then you can sacrifice a chicken. You're not required to do that.
Yeah.
The wisdom behind it is to, if you are able to, that means you can afford it, then do it. And you're doing it for the sake, not just for eating, just the sake to give away for the sake of Allah. So chicken, if you slaughter chicken, how much are you going to give out of the chicken? Right? So subhanAllah, we have to follow the type as well. Not just the quantity, not just the way, not just the time, not just the place, but also the type. So a clear distinction should be made about the action of the Prophet ﷺ, whether they were done only from time to time or whether they were done continuously on a regular basis. This is another thing as well. SubhanAllah. So we have things that the Prophet ﷺ used to do from time to time. So they have a space of time between. And we have things that the Prophet ﷺ used to do every day on a regular basis. For example, nawafil. Some of the nawafil are done every day and some nawafil had been done on a space of time. There was done in, like there's a frame of time between each one. It hasn't been done on a regular basis. For example, some of the nawafil are things which he ﷺ would do from time to time. We should observe this. For example, certain surahs being recited in certain days. Can you give examples? Kaf on Friday, and even Sheikh Al-Hawani, he spoke a little bit about the authenticity of the hadith of Surah Al-Kahf. He said, Wallahu alam, he said, I think it's da'if. This is one of these hadith, Surah Al-Kahf. I remember he said that about it. That the Surah Al-Kahf will produce a light between the two Jum'ahs. He said this hadith, the chain of the narrators, is weak. Wallahu alam. Anyway, but yes, Surah Al-Kahf. So every Friday. And the Prophet ﷺ used to recite from time to time in Fajr of Jum'ah, the Jum'ah day Fajr. He used to recite Surah Al-Insan and Surah Al-Sajdah. Surah Al-Sajdah and Surah Al-Insan. Right? Some people recite Surah Al-Sajdah and Surah Al-Insan every single Fajr of Jum'ah. So every week you go to some masajid, some mosque, they recited this every single Friday because they saying the Prophet ﷺ did it on Friday. But he didn't do it every single week, he did it from time to time.
So part of following him is not to do it every single
Not to do it every single Friday. Otherwise become a bid'ah now. Because you introduce something is not, he did it. So you see how there's a fine line. Yeah, subhanAllah, you're doing this, subhanAllah, this is good, the Prophet ﷺ did it. But you have to look into, there's a distinction. If he did it regularly, every day, every time, like if he did it every Friday, then you do it. But he didn't do it every Friday. He did it from time to time, maybe once a month, or twice a month, or once a year, Allahu A'lam. But he didn't do it, certainly he didn't do it every single Friday. So you have to change between those two surahs, otherwise become a bid'ah. Okay? So we have to be aware of this, because if we do something regularly, people will think that is a wajib. See how people think? Those people, when they do it on specific time, every single time, that becomes like an obligation. Sometimes if someone else, the imam is sick or something, the one who do it every Friday with sajda and al-insan, and recite, another one replace him and recite different surahs, people would attack him. Wallah, people would attack him. And I know some people in my masjid back in Egypt, and I will have this, mashallah, all elders in the mosque. Those elders, you can't come near them in the mosque. They are the boss of the mosque. They're a group of people, mashallah, I love them. They are a group of them, like my uncles. If you want to flick a light or turn the fan on, you have to take the permission. You have to write a letter, get it signed, approved, and then give it to them. If they approve it, you're lucky. You can't just go there and tell them, you want to do this, or you can just go on your own and just do this. They will attack you. Alright, and subhanAllah, they are living in the masjid. They have nothing else to do. They're staying in the masjid day and night, which is good, alhamdulillah. But yeah, they're very hardcore when it comes to things like this. So if you don't recite al-insan, al-sajda and al-insan and fajr of Jum'ah, after fajr, they probably will repeat the prayer. They won't pray against you, behind you again. And I remember when I tried to explain things like, qunut. Qunut is a big thing in Fajr prayer. This is something also Prophet didn't do it on regular basis, didn't do it every day. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't do it. So if you missed qunut, they look at you in a different way after you finish the prayer. Why didn't you do qunut? Someone will take you on the side and you start bashing you for not doing it, So you need to educate people, slowly. You have to be gentle as well, be kind. And if you know things that like this, you have to. Another example, in Tarawih, people do certain du'as between the rak'at. As-salatu was-salamu alayka ya sayyidi ya Rasulallah, subhanallah, ya hayyu ya qayyum, things like this, which is the remembrance of Allah. But did the Prophet did it? No. Did he do it at this time? So when you do it this time, first 2 rak'ah, different dua, second 2 rak'ah, second lot, third lot, and witr has separate dua. So when you make these things specific for these the prayers, it becomes a major bid'ah, not just a small one. It's a big bid'ah, right? And subhanallah, we see this a lot because people are ignorant and they don't want to educate themselves. They don't want to learn about it. That's a big issue. So we have to learn. Prophet ﷺ, yes, he did that. So when you talk to someone who says, "Oh, Prophet ﷺ prayed Fajr prayer on Jum'ah and he recited as-sajda and al-insan," but did he do it every Friday? No. So when you make an assumption that he did it every Friday and you have to do it every Friday, this becomes a bid'ah now. So we have to be very careful. So when the Prophet ﷺ did something only from time to time, then we should do it from time to time. Same way he did it. So from time to time you recite Surah Sajda and Surah Al-Insan.
That's ittiba'.
That's ittiba'. This is the way we should follow. This is what we commanded to do. To follow the sunnah, the way of the Prophet ﷺ. And even the Sahaba, look how they follow the footstep of Rasulullah ﷺ. Right? They would recite the hadith. If the Prophet ﷺ smiled, they would smile. When they recite it. When they say it. This could be years after the Prophet ﷺ passed away. But they followed the Rasulullah ﷺ. And I think one of the Sahaba, was Abdullah, Abu Huraira or Abdullah ibn Abbas, who was walking on the street, or Abdullah ibn Umar, was walking on the street of Medina, and he passed one spot, and he bent down. Went under, and stood up, and continued walking. And people saw, there's nothing there. He said the Prophet ﷺ walked in this street and there was a tree branch there and he ducked underneath it. So I'm just following the sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ. This is how they love the Prophet ﷺ and how they follow his footsteps and follow his words to the letter. This is what we should do as well. By learning and educating ourselves and our family members about the sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ. Learning about his lifestyle. When Aisha radiallahu anha, the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, was asked about the akhlaq, the manners, what did she say? كَانَ خُلُقُهُ الْقُرْآنِ. He was the walking Qur'an. His manners was the Qur'an. This is the manners and the actions of the Prophet ﷺ and how we have to follow it. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So as it has been mentioned today, the action of the Prophet ﷺ were done for different purposes. There were actions which he ﷺ would do haphazardly, the things that he ﷺ would do because of the custom of that time. These actions were not done by the Prophet ﷺ for the purpose of ibadah. We too should not do this action for ibadah. Our intentions should match the intention of the Prophet ﷺ as well. The following are the examples. At the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the men used to have long hair. So used to have long hair. And it was not done for the purpose of ibadah. So if anyone wants to keep long hair today, it should be not done for the ibadah. So sometimes when brothers grow long hair, they say, "Oh, this is sunnah." Or growing long hair is ibadah. It's a sunnah. Prophet ﷺ used to have long hair. but it's not an ibadah, it's not an action of ibadah. The Prophet ﷺ used to open the top buttons of his shirts. This was because it was hot. So when you walk around with opening this saying this is ibadah, it's not ibadah. The turban at the time of the Prophet ﷺ was worn because it was the custom then. The big turban, it was custom. So wearing it today, is not ibadah. Some hadith mentioned in the Prophet ﷺ using a stick, again, was not done for the purpose of ibadah. This is remind me of one thing as well. I don't want to mention it now. Yeah, holding a stick, Yeah, so it's not ibadah. People think it's, the Prophet ﷺ is holding a stick, so you walk around with a stick. When you give khutbah, you give a khutbah with a stick. It's not ibadah. Okay, because it was certain, he was carrying it for a reason. Alright? He wasn't commanding the Sahaba to do it. None of the Sahaba was carrying sticks and walking with the Prophet ﷺ. Alright? So we should not follow this example of the Prophet ﷺ for the purpose of ibadah. Okay? So how we differentiate between the actions of the Prophet ﷺ, which were done for the purpose of ibadah, and those which were not? The scholars say, if the Prophet ﷺ commanded us to do it, like I just said now, then it becomes a ibadah. But if he done it and didn't command the Sahaba to do it, then it's not ibadah. Right?
Yep.
Simple as it is. Example like I just mentioned now, opening up his top button for his shirt. He didn't command the Sahaba to do that. Wearing a turban, having a long hair, holding a stick. So it doesn't become ibadah because he didn't command us. Otherwise, this is a big issue. Because if you look into it from a different angle, if it's ibadah and the Prophet ﷺ didn't tell us about it, a big problem.
You cannot say that. Yeah.
You cannot say that. So this issue of introducing something which does not belong to the Sharia is associated with the concept of Islam as a complete religion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Ma'idah, اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. Umar ibn Khattab, when he heard this ayah from the Prophet ﷺ, he cried. Because he was smart. He knew this ayah was revealed to consolidate the Prophet ﷺ. His time has come. This is the perfection of the Deen, meaning that the Prophet ﷺ could pass away soon. The revelation of the Quran could stop very soon. And in fact, this is one of the verses of the last verses of the Quran. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a complete religion, so we don't need to go and improve this perfect and complete religion. The message is clear, isn't it, from this hadith and from the ayah. Today I have perfected your religion for you, and have bestowed upon you the full measure of my blessings, and will that Islam shall be your religion. Since Islam is complete, there is no need for addition or deletions to this religion. Therefore, introduce some new matters into Islam, or delete or omit something from it, is an affront to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and becomes a major sin. Allahu a'lam. Al-Imam Al-Shatibi mentions that if a certain actions are taken as ibadah, where in reality they are not, this will lead to bid'ah. There is a hadith which tells us the story of 3 men who only wanted to do good deeds all the time. We know that this hadith. Yeah? One said, I will never get married, thinking that this is something good. You're going to get married, it's something good. You won't be distracted, which is, I understand his way of thinking. But it's against the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? Okay. Second one, he said he will pray all night. And the third one, he pray all night and never sleep. And the third one, he said he will fast every single day. The Prophet ﷺ, when he heard this, he was upset. He said, by Allah, I'm the most pious and fearful and righteous person amongst you all. And yet, I sleep and I pray at night. I marry women and I fast and I break my fast. So these men were thinking that while they're doing this was an act of ibadah. It was not. Okay, it was actually against the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Imam Shatibi also mentions that avoiding eating certain types of food for the purpose of ibadah should not be done. You know, halal food, some people avoid it for the sake of ibadah. We can avoid these foods for health or other good reason, but not for the purpose of ibadah. So if it's halal, you can't say I avoid it for the sake of ibadah. Allah made it halal for you. How can you say it's not eating it is halal? It's ibadah. You know, you can make another reason for it, which is fine, but don't come near ibadah, because what you're doing is not ibadah. It's actually against the sunnah. So you don't want to eat this type of food because if you want to lose weight or your diet, or because the doctor wrote a prescription for you, then it's a different issue. Imam Shatibi also says that if there are two ways of fulfilling an obligation, we should follow the easier way. This is the example of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he was to choose between two matters, he will always choose the easier one. This is our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam example. Okay? So we shouldn't use cold water when we make an wudu in winter, right? To inflict pain on ourselves, trying to show that we have patience, we are stronger. That has nothing to do with our religion. Now this logic comes in. We need to use our logic this time. What is the point of using cold water in a very cold night to make wudu? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to say? Or you choose the faraway mosque if you want to go to prayer, rather than the closer one to your heart. Purposely because you want to go for the longest one and probably walk there instead of driving there. I mean, things like this, it doesn't make sense. And the examples are many. The example of bid'ah are many. The scholar says if someone violates the Sharia by adding something new to our deen, it becomes a bid'ah. The bid'ah is rejected depending on what the Prophet ﷺ said and what kind of violation has been done. For example, if in a prayer, if someone violates its conditions, then this ibadah will definitely not be accepted. What is the condition of salah? Anyone knows? We studied this before. That's not a quiz stuff.
Intention.
Yeah? Yeah? What are conditions?
Time.
Location. Qibla.
Yeah, Qibla. Awra. Forget the awra, they have to be covered. Tahara. That's different. I'm talking about conditions. You know the arkan, but you need to fulfill the conditions before you start your prayer. Tahara.
The place when you're where you're praying.
Tahara المكان واللبس والملبس والثوب والبدن اتجاه القبلة. If you know where is the direction of the qibla and you decided to pray the other direction, then your salah will not be accepted. Okay, so there's so many examples. Imam Ibn Rajab mentioned that there are certain actions which violate the Sharia, but the scholars have differing views about them. For example, if a man wears natural silk while performing his prayer, look at how specific they go in detail, subhanAllah. A man wearing a natural harir tabi'i, natural silk, while he performing his prayer, is his prayer acceptable? Or if someone prays in a house which is stolen or taken by force from the owner, most scholars says the action is acceptable, but the person will be asked about his wrongdoings, wearing silk, for example, or praying in a stolen house, because that part does not violate salah. Wearing silk is not nullifying your salah. We know what nullifies your salah. Nullification of salah are different, but wearing silk is not one of them. Or praying in a stolen house is not one of them. But you will be asked about it. It doesn't mean that you will not be asked about it. You will be asked about it. So look how the details, subhanAllah, they go into it. So the conclusion for tonight, this hadith, من أحدث في أمرنا هذا ما ليس منه فهو رد, one of the important hadith and teach it to our children, to our friends, and talk about how important that we follow the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If we claim that we love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we should follow his style, his way of life, his actions, not other innovation that some people made, and thinking that this is, bringing us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أقول ما تسمعون وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك مدعو سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات ورفع الدرجات. اللهم ارفع مقتك وغضبك عنا. اللهم لا تسلط علينا بذنوبنا من لا يخافك فينا ولا يرحمنا. اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاكم الله خيرا.